The Granite State of New Hampshire hosts the 10th race of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour season. Surrounded by beautiful scenery, it's the Claremont Motorsports Park, host tonight of the extra bonus Granite State Cup Championship race. With $5K on the line, and that man, Matt Hirschman, tied atop the series standings alongside Doug Kobe in the 7 New York, a 6-time Whelen Modified Tour champion. But right there in the mix is Ronnie Silk, and tonight he's got his eyes on the prize. Coming up next, it's the Clash at Claremont. And hello everyone, welcome to the Claremont Motorsports Park here for tonight's Whelen Modified Tour event. What do you say we settle into the starting lineup for tonight's 150-lap contest? Starting in the 23rd position here this evening, he drives the Last Minute Racing Modified from East Haven, Connecticut, Walt Sutcliffe Jr. Starting 22nd, the Pine Knoll Auto Sales 01 from Wakefield, New Hampshire, Melissa Fifield. He'll roll from the 21st position tonight from Ronkonkoma, New York, Lakeland Landscape and TRC Electric, the backers for Gary McDonald. Starting 20th, the Bowie One Seafood and Restaurant Machine. Car number 18 from Calverton, New York, Ken Hagee. The 19th starter tonight drives car number 36 from Riverhead, New York. Zappienza Enterprises bring us Dave Zappienza. Starting 18th, it's car number 12 from West Swansea, New Hampshire. Apex Racing. Swansea will bring you Todd Patnode. Rolling off in 17th, it is the Mayhew Tools 7 New York, a 6-time Whelen Modified Tour champion from Milford, Connecticut, Doug Kobe. Returning to the competition, rolling off in 16th, car number 19 from New Jersey. Please welcome Anthony Cecily and the Wannock Construction Incorporated Modified. Starting 15th, a talented, young rookie driver from Northampton, Pennsylvania, the Dell and Lumiere Electric, Andrew James Interior Modified, car number 64, Austin Beers. He is a former champion here at this racetrack. He starts 14th tonight from Bennington, New Hampshire, the Kimball Trucking and Firewood, Gamarlo Supermarket number 76 for Matt Kimball. The 13th starter won his first Whelen Modified Tour race 2 weeks ago at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. He drives an Ocella Paving, K&D Associates Air Gas number 92 from Woburn, Massachusetts, Anthony Nocella. Starting 12th from Holtzville, New York, the Red Camel Racing, John's Fuel and John Tree Removal number 34, J.B. Fortin. Car number 22 rolls next from the 11th position. He hails from Bay Shore, New York, the Chalou Performance, Mitt and Munns Auto Modified, Kyle Bonsignor. And now your top 10 starters for the Clash at Claremont. Starting 10th from Ontario, New York, the FX Caprera, number 54, Tommy Catalano. Starting 9th, the Horton Avenue Materials, number 82, from Miller Place, New York, Craig Lutz. Starting 8th, he is one of the hottest drivers in modified competition in the 2022 season. Driving the PD Motorsports number 60, from Northampton, Pennsylvania, Matt Hirschman. Starting 7th, driving car number 06 from Westminster, Massachusetts, the Dennison Lubricants, Powell's and Stone and Gravel entry. Please welcome Sammy Ramu. The next driver is right in the mix in the championship hunt. He sits third coming into tonight. He drives modified number 58 from Riverhead, New York, the GAF Roofing Machine, Eric Goodale. Starting 5th, no stranger to Claremont, the Sunapee, New Hampshire driver, the Maurice Enterprises machine, and a 2-time modified track champion here at this racetrack. driving modified number 25, Brian Roby. Starting fourth is a talented modified driver who sits second in the championship standings. He drives a Middlesex Interiors number 79 from Chelmsford, Massachusetts, John McKennedy. Rolling off the grid in third is a former series champion and current point leader. He drives a Blue Mountain machine in future Homes entry. Car number 16 from Norwalk, Connecticut, Ronnie Silk. And on the front row tonight, starting second, this driver from Holtsville, New York, in the Phoenix Communications number 51. He is the defending series champion, Justin Bonsignor. Today, this driver makes another step in history of the famed Old Blue modified race car. From Rehoboth, Massachusetts, driving the Propane Plus Lynn's Propane Trucks entry, his second career Mayhew Tools pole. Please welcome driver of car number 3, Jake Johnson. Race fans, that is your starting lineup for tonight's Clash at Claremont 150. And what a race that we have in store here this evening. A lot on the line. Not only running for the series championship, but tonight, the final race in the Whelen Granite Short Track Cup. $5,000 on the line here tonight. A couple drivers tied at the top of the standings between Doug Kobe, who's driving that 7 New York car for Tommy Baldwin Racing, and Matt Hirschman in the 60 car, along with Ronnie Silk, who sits there in third, just a few points and a few positions back behind the rest of the top drivers. Plenty on the line here tonight. We've got a young rookie driver on the pole in car number 3, lining up alongside a multi-time series champion and Justin Bonsignor to the outside. Couple of things to keep an eye on as this race goes on. The 7 New York, Doug Kobe, starting back in 17th. He will be fun to watch. Race fans, what do you say we get this race started? Let's go trackside and introduce our Grand Marshal for tonight. On behalf of Whelen Engineering, here is, for the command, Debbie and Bella.
Drivers, start your engines!
There is nothing better than the sound of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour coming to life here for the first time in 15 years here at Claremont Motorsports Park. 150 laps on tap for tonight's festivities, and it's so good to have each and every one of you with us here tonight and joining us on the broadcast tonight on Flow Racing. I'm Joe Koss alongside Andy Austin, and tonight, Andy, this is a race that we've all been looking for. This is a racetrack that's as picturesque and beautiful as any that we stop on the series tour, but right now, all the drivers, especially those top 3 of Kobe, Matt Hirschman, and Ronnie Silk, they're focused not only on the big picture, but tonight's race and that $5,000 that's on the line.
$5,000 will be decided here tonight in 150 laps. And to your point, Joe, this place is stunning. This is the first time that I was here, or have been here since 1985, and the metamorphosis of Claremont Motorsport Park, simply amazing. Picturesque Friday night. The stands are packed. Matter of fact, we sold out of 50-50 tickets. $800 went to the winner. Congratulations to Jesse Hansen for winning. But getting back to the $5,000 to win this, again, the top 2 tied in the point standings. Whoever finishes in front of the other is going to win a big payday.
Get a good look at the field here as you see the seating here at Claremont, tucked into the hills. Beautiful venue to be able to watch racing. A beautiful evening for motorsports action in the Whelen Modified Tour. Open wheel competition. And this is going to be fun when we get going. On the flag stand tonight, April Aitken, longtime employee of Whelen Engineering, will throw the green flag to get us underway as final checks being done by the NASCAR officials before we send the field on a couple of parade laps to get them tuned up and ready to go. They've got the opportunity to pit off turn 3 and into turn 4, but there are no tires to change here tonight. Unless they've got a flat, NASCAR may approve that. So that means that you've got to be up on the wheel, but you got to conserve equipment at the same point in time. And so this is going to take a driver that knows how to be patient and somebody who's got a good balance and control over that accelerator pedal on the right foot.
So, Joe, our pole sitter is 19 years old. Do you think he possesses those skills to get to victory lane here tonight? Because, yes, to your point, an aging surface and 0 tire changes, they're going to need to conserve, but also push the button as well.
Well, Jake Johnson, I think, has proven himself in modified competition to be a contender. And we had a couple of races ago. We were at the Lee USA Speedway in the month of May right here in New Hampshire. And Jake Johnson was a factor, and he was a factor in the late going. Now, we had to change tires in that race, but that's a very abrasive racetrack, and he was pretty good at keeping his stuff good at the end. So I think Jake Johnson is a legitimate shot to win this race tonight, certainly from the pole position. He's had a great week so far, won a big race here in New Hampshire last Saturday night, had a good race in the midweek and down in the state of Massachusetts. And now he's got the opportunity to see if he can win in one of the most historic cars in modified competition, and that is Old Blue. And this is a kid who knows the talent that is driven in this car before him.
What I found amazing about Jake, actually a number of things. You can see the yellow rookie stripe on the back bumper of the number 3. But once he found out he was driving that car, of course he had his history from growing up a fan in the stands watching the recent history, relatively recent history of the 3, but went back and looked at some of the storied drivers who have piloted that historic race car. And the weight of the number 3 is certainly on his heart and in his mind. When he wheels every single lap of that car, he feels it, and I think he's really doing the car justice. He has to battle one of the best, though, on the outside. This is going to be an amazing initial start with Justin Bonsignor on the outside in the 51.
And Justin Bonsignor, who has never been to this racetrack, had never seen it before we had the opportunity to go out for practice earlier today, and he put that 51 up on the front row. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for tonight's clash at Claremont 150 for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Jake Johnson earning his second career pole here this evening. He will line up alongside Justin Bonsignor, the defending series champion. Row number 2, you've got Ronnie Silk in the number 16. He leads the championship standings along with John McKennedy in the 79 machine, but don't keep your eye off that 8th starter. That's Matt Hirschman. He is in the midst for that Granite Short Track Cup Championship here tonight. He'll roll from the 8th position.
So essentially we have 3 types of rookies going in this one.
You go back to the next grid. 13th, the recent winner of the Whelen Modified Tour, number 92, Anthony Nocella. That's where he'll start from. The young rookie, Austin Beers, will roll off 15th tonight. And Doug Kobe starts deep in the field, did not have a strong qualifying run. He'll start back in 17th. Rounding out our 23-car field, Gary McDonald, Melissa Fifield, and Walt Sutcliffe.
Yeah, we have Jake Johnson on the pole, Brian Roby, one of the Sunoco Rookie of the Year contenders, and then Justin Bonsignor. You don't think of him as a rookie, but yes, first time here at Claremont, second fastest on the clock tonight. What can he do? Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you've been waiting for all summer, the clash at Claremont. Whether you're watching on Flow or you're here in person watching the races, it's time to turn these drivers loose. It's time for you to be part of the show, too, as the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour paces behind the pace car, coming with the 1 to go signal. It will be time for you to get on your feet and salute your favorite driver as they get ready to do battle. They are ready for you. Are you ready for them? We're going to find out next time by.
Field rolling down across the start-finish line. A beautiful sight here at Claremont, New Hampshire. You couldn't ask for a better racing venue. This racetrack, high banks, 3rd mile. Oddly shaped as the crowd just tips their hat to these drivers as they get ready to do battle here. It's been 15 years since the Whelen Modified Tour has raced here at the Claremont Motorsports Park.
That was a practice run. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for some action? It's time to get off of your butts. Time to enjoy and send these drivers on their way. Drivers of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, we salute you. What a great crowd here tonight, Joe.
A beautiful sight. The field rolls down through turns 1 and 2. Look at the eyes of the young rookie driver, Jake Johnson, getting ready to go racing. The veteran to his right elbow in the form of Justin Bonsignor. They come to the line this time through, and they'll get 1 lap to go from bobsleigh to top the flag stand. Turn 1 will be interesting. It's a wide sweeping entry into turn number 1 where it cuts sharply to the left by the time they get to turn number 2. The radius is wide, but it's tight on corner exit. You get down into turn number 3, you can really get on the binders and try to drive underneath somebody and pick up a spot. It is time to get underway. The clash at Claremont about set to be unleashed here in New Hampshire. Down into turn number 3, April Aitken atop the flag stand to throw the initial green flag, and we are underway in Claremont. Off turn 2, Jake Johnson running toe-to-toe, side-by-side with Justin Bonsignor as they race for turn 3.
Yeah, Bonsignor outbreaks Johnson and will pull around him. No, Johnson comes back going into turn number 1. Bonsignor cannot close the door. They're still side-by-side off of 2.
Johnson staying tough there on the bottom side of the racetrack as we go toe-to-toe for the race lead. The young rookie driver, 19-year-old, working the bottom lane. Outside lane, Justin Bonsignor comes across the line and leads the lap.
You mentioned tire conservation. We're working lap number 3, and John McKennedy looks like he can put that car anywhere he wants it. Car number 79 now riding the outside behind the 51 off of turn 4.
McKennedy made a big adjustment before qualifying earlier tonight. He said, I need to be a little bit better, and right now that adjustment's working because the outside is rolling fast for the 79 of McKennedy.
John McKennedy now pulls up on Jake Johnson. Johnson trapped down to the inside. That seems to be not necessarily the preferred line here early on, as you see drivers with the choice now riding up midway between groups 1 and 2 as they go into turn 3.
Justin Bonsignor able to clear Jake Johnson to the top side and take over the race lead. Now here comes John McKennedy and the tire tracks of Justin Bonsignor as they now run through turns 1 and 2. But Johnson, look at him rally back on the bottom here, working the inside lane.
There is no quit in Jake Johnson. He'll pull it up, not quite even, but still, Justin Bonsignor cannot close the deal. They nearly make contact back into turn number 2, but Jake Johnson's still there.
Johnson using every bit of the racetrack in the bottom of turn 1 and 2 that time. This time he puts it in the dirt in turn 3. Goes underneath, and that little bit might be all Justin Bonsignor needs to clear Johnson getting down into turn number 2. And he just can't quite do it. Somehow, Johnson keeps the nose down to the inside.
Next in line is John McKennedy in car number 79. He'll try his shot on Jake Johnson. Goes to the outside into turn number 1, evening it up in the corner. And now Johnson back on the inside of Bonsignor for the lead.
Here comes Johnson, continuing to work to the bottom, the top 3. Running right there under a blanket, up off turn number 4 and across the line. This time by, the laps continue to be led by Justin Bonsignor, but Jake Johnson is giving up a fight here on the bottom.
One driver who's out of the picture right now is car number 7, Doug Kobe, qualified 17th. Of course, thereafter the championship this year in the Granite State, the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup. And having to make a lot of room or make a lot of ground up here in a hurry, he hasn't been able to do that in the first nearly dozen laps.
Yeah, he's only gained 1 position, and so we'll keep an eye on that as the race goes on. Meanwhile, the battle up front. Jake Johnson finally able to nose out in front of Justin Bonsignor down the back straightaway. And Bonsignor, that outside lane, finally gives up for him, and Jake Johnson goes to the point.
You've seen John McKennedy run strong throughout the year, still trying to pick up, I believe, his first win of the year, but some definite top 5 runs. He's got a very fast race car here early on. You've seen him nearly make a pass on the outside, but made it work down low. He can put that 79, and now he goes for the lead in turn 1.
Sparks fly from beneath the 79 of John McKennedy. Here comes Jake Johnson, though. Johnson, feisty early on as he goes to the bottom. They touch in turn 3.
When you're 19 years old and driving Old Blue and you know the weight of that race car, you throw everything you have into every lap. And Jake Johnson going after it, coming up on the lap car of 0-1 in turn number 4.
Outside lane, they work around Melissa Fifield as they come across the line. 15 laps in. John McKennedy leading the way, but he's being hounded by the 3 of Jake Johnson.
McKennedy in car number 79, as we talked about before the broadcast, did not have a very satisfactory race car in practice. McKennedy was under the car himself, making the adjustments, and they seem to have worked.
Matt Hirschman, you just saw him a moment ago in the 60 car. Sammy Ramu in the 06. He's got a lot of laps around this racetrack as well, as does Brian Roby in that number 25 machine right there in the center of your frame. Made a start at Monadnock Speedway earlier this season. Roby started 5th tonight, and that's where he runs, and he's trying to put a move on Ronnie Silk.
Yeah, good to see Brian Roby hanging up there inside the top 5, too. I mean, running with the big dogs. A Sunoco Rookie of the Year contender in his second race. Qualified 5th. Very impressive on the boards, but able to back it up here in the first 20 laps of this race. Car number 25 inside the top 5.
But he's one of the most experienced drivers at this racetrack because he's a 2-time track champion in modified competition. Won it in 2019 and 2020. He's very experienced in the short tracks in New Hampshire, so it's no surprise to see him run up front. But these race cars are different. The rubber that they run on these cars acts differently than other cars he's run, and that's the biggest thing that Brian Roby is going to have to adapt to tonight.
Good battle going on for third spot. Ronnie Silk goes down to the inside of Bonsignor. An easy pass for car number 16. He was stealth here in the first 15 laps, but has really picked up the wick and goes after Jake Johnson for second in turn number 4.
Got a little bit of ground to catch him. Here comes Brian Roby in the 25 going after the defending champ. Digging down low in turns 1 and 2, and Justin Bonsignor will give that position away. That opens up the downstairs lane. Eric Goodale will sneak underneath, so Bonsignor from the front row starting to backpedal here as the run goes on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We talked about at the top of the broadcast how there are no tire changes unless you have tire problems, and I wonder if that's a product of car 51.
The 51 of Justin Bonsignor has not been at this racetrack before. And we'll see how that plays out as the race goes on. It could be a conservation strategy. Running back there in 6th. You see a little bit deeper in the field. There's the 70 York of Doug Coby. He started 17th. He's up to 13th right now. And the car in front of him, the 12 car of Todd Patno, did not have any practice today. They had an electrical problem in the motor. They went out, they qualified, started deep in the field. But Todd Patno, another driver that knows this racetrack and many of the other short tracks in this part of the country very well, but it looks like he's got a little smoke coming off the right rear that time. Maybe the Nerf bar rubbing against it on the 12 car as he went down into the turn.
You can see why this is why Doug Coby is a 6-time champion. Did not come swinging out of the gate. Did not hit the panic button. He knows that the championship is on the line for Granite State, and now slowly picking his way through the field. Could easily move on Craig Lutz, but instead rides behind the orange number 82 down the front stretch.
And he's one of the few drivers, Doug Coby is, who was in that race 15 years ago, back in 2007. James Savali won the race that day, and Coby is able to sneak underneath Todd Patno and pick up another spot. That moves him up to the 12th spot.
J.B. Fortin sticks his nose in there, and car number 34 as well. Had that very impressive run at Jennerstown for the Jennerstown Salutes, another JDV production event back on Memorial Day weekend. Ran inside the top 5, top 3, led some laps, and now, they're really bunching it up down the backstretch.
3 wide. Didn't think you could do that here as they made it work somehow. Dave Zapienza is there, Todd Patno, and Matt Kibble. And the 76 machine, a lot of people thought that he would be pretty strong tonight. He's a champion a year ago in modified competition here at this racetrack.
We are now 31 laps into this race, and back up in front it continues to be McKennedy over Jake Johnson. Ronnie Silk is third. No change inside the top 3.
But it's a lot tighter. McKennedy is doing what you need to do in a race like this. He's controlling the pace. Now Johnson's going to go ahead and put on the attack, but McKennedy had a pretty big lead. He was up to about 4 or 5 car lengths before this, and he's backing into the rest of the field, running as fast as he needs to save those tires.
Now you, of course, the voice of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, Joe, you've seen these drivers week in and week out. Does this look like a typical John McKennedy race where he gets out in front and then kind of just sets the pace and says, all right, I'm going to test what my car can do, but I'm not going to run it 100% on lap 32? John
McKennedy has been one of the favorites on the driver's list when you talk to them through the paddock area, along with guys like Matt Hirschman in the 60, because those two drivers are very good at conserving equipment. John McKennedy ran in series that you couldn't change tires in, so he had a lot of experience in running in cars with 4 tires from front to the back. Matt Hirschman does a lot of that as well. He's now got a car that's on the move. This is uncharacteristic Matt Hirschman. He'll normally hang back a little bit in a race like this. That's his style, but now he's getting pretty aggressive here early on. This is a battle for the 6th spot, trying to get underneath Justin Bonsignor.
Yeah, and Eric Goodale made some contact with him. The 60 and the 58, the 2 cars were watching as they work their way off the corner down the front straightaway. It continues to be now Bonsignor dropping back even more spots. You have Kyle on the inside now in the 22.
2 cousins. Kyle Bonsignor on the bottom in the 22. Justin Bonsignor outside in the 51. And right behind him, Craig Lutz in the number 82 machine, the orange car. So Justin Bonsignor starting to backpedal here in the outside lane of the racetrack. Everybody else on the bottom, and he is getting great training.
Yeah, didn't have a great practice session, did have a decent qualifying run, so definitely a seesaw day for car number 51. And now he's under attack from Doug Coby. Here comes the 7 New York to the inside.
Yeah, Coby now on the move, so this will put Doug Coby inside the top 10. So slowly and surely, coming up on 40 laps into this 150-lap clash at Claremont. And look at how wide Bonsignor was that time off turn number 4, nearly caught the outside fence. That car is just evil. That 51. Sparks fly out of Fortin's number 34.
I would not want to hear the radio communication between Bonsignor and his spotter right now, just pleading. Maybe a caution flag, maybe an adjustment, but so far that is not the deal. You cannot pit and obviously have a chance to have a decent finish here. You're going to lose some laps.
Yeah, it's a tight little racetrack with the way things are laid out here. It's hard to come down pit road and not get behind. We'll see what Ryan Stone and the team decides to do. Sammy Raymond with the 06. Directly in front of Justin Bonsignor. That was a car that he was really optimistic coming into this racetrack. He started racing here at a very young age as a teenager, has a lot of races here, does Sammy Raymond in that 06 machine, but has never been able to win. And he said, you know what, I've got to be able to check Claremont off my win list because I've run so much here. And of all the drivers in the field, he's one of the most experienced in all types of race cars at this facility.
That's interesting. I mean, a guy who's 19, 20 years old, started racing here when he was 13. He said he had to change his insurance around just so he could compete. How bad do you want it? I'll change the insurance and get out there, and he certainly has. And they have a little bit of momentum, too. While they have not won a Whelen Modified Tour event, Sammy Ramo coming off the 4th place finish at Monadnock, the duel with the dog, about 6 weeks ago. And that car and that team continue to move forward.
Yeah, having a pretty solid run right now in that 06. Started inside the top 10. He runs 11th right now, but it's still pretty early on as we come up to the 46th position. Here's that battle back up in front. John McKennedy leads the way in the clash at Claremont.
McKennedy up in front by about 5 car lengths. Johnson in Old Blue rides in second. Ronnie Silk now begins to apply some pressure. The silver number 16 right on the back bumper of the 3. Drifts a bit wide going through 1 and 2, and now on the attack again as they go back into the corner.
You see the gap between first and second. John McKennedy leads the way here at the Claremont Motorsports Park at the clash at Claremont for the Whelen Modified Tour. A couple of car lengths behind the pole sitter and rookie contender in Old Blue, Jake Johnson, and Ronnie Silk in the 16.
So impressed with Brian Roby behind them. Car number 25, a local driver, qualified inside the top 5. He's moved up to position number 4, but he isn't, I don't think he's comfortable sitting there. He just might make the move if an opportunity presents itself, but he's also on the defense too, because here comes Eric Goodale right behind him.
When you won a racetrack like this so many times and are a champion at the track, you know the little nuances. You know how the track changes as the race goes on. That's the experience that Brian Roby has, as Eric Goodale nearly got into the back of him. That I think will serve him well as this race goes on. You don't have to worry about pit stops here tonight. It's just manage your equipment, and Roby's the kind of driver that can do that well.
The driver who has lost the biggest amount or the most amount of ground in the first 50 laps of this race is Justin Bonsignor. He started on the outside of the front row, has dropped back to as far as 12th, now unofficially running 11th right behind Doug Coby. And Coby quietly has picked up 7 positions in the first 53 laps.
Matt Hirschman is on the move as well in that 60 car. Hirschman waited late to go out and practice. He was in street clothes while everybody else was out there practicing. Went out towards the end, and you know, people watched him back there and said, you know what, he was really fighting that race car, and we weren't quite sure what he was going to have when he came out onto the racetrack. He's 5th right now, and Hirschman's starting to work his way forward. You know, some drivers will tell you to race like this, like John McKennedy is doing up front, you want to control the race early. This one's a little bit different than that Matt Hirschman style we were talking about earlier. He's showing that you need to get up to the front faster than he normally would.
And this doesn't appear to be a race. I mean, we're certainly over a third of the way through it. It's not a race of attrition, at least in the first half, where you have a bunch of caution flags right up in front. Sorry about that there, Joe. I know I said the bad words.
How about the 54, Tommy Catalano up to 6?
Yes. Catalano continues to run there, but yeah, it's time to go. There are no laps off in this 150-lap clash at Claremont. Hirschman continues to move to the front, but it is John McKennedy over Jake Johnson, about 0.4 of a second between those two drivers as they run 1-2 on the track.
Tommy Catalano there in the red number 54, started 10th tonight, up to 6th, following Matt Hirschman right on through. He's been in the middle of the championship hunt as well. Nearly won at Richmond earlier this season. Currently 6th in the standings, but he had a great run at New Hampshire Motor Speedway a couple of weeks ago before an engine expired on him late in the going, or otherwise he would have been a lot closer to the front.
60 laps into this one, and Matt Hirschman continues to climb the leaderboard. The black number 60, you see him midway down the back straightaway right now. And after that controversial finish at another racetrack at Monadnock Speedway during the duel with the dog, that team seemed to have shaken it off. And that's experience too. That's cooler heads prevailing, not going out there. There was of course the controversy with I believe it was J.B. Fortin, and they have certainly just continued to race with respect here tonight.
Matt Hirschman wants to add another Duke Blue Devil sticker to the inside of that race car. His car owner, Roy Hall, is a big fan of North Carolina, and every time Matt Hirschman wins, he can put a sticker inside that race car, and he's got quite a few. He's looking for another tonight. Meanwhile, off turn number 1, Todd Patnode is slow to the top side of the racetrack, and he's stopped just in the middle of turns 1 and 2, and that is going to bring the caution flag out. The first one of the night, 63 laps into tonight's clash at Claremont.
He was the driver who had the electrical issue during practice, if I remember correctly. So maybe it's a continuation of that. But tough break for that machine. Car number 12 on lap number 64 of this event, which will tighten the field up. John McKennedy has certainly set the pace. Jake Johnson, after an aggressive first 20 laps, had backed it down a little bit and settled in. And certainly wise beyond his years at 19 years of age. Of course, you're up there and you want to just go for it. But you have the cooler heads in your ear saying, you know what, maybe back it down for a little bit, let the race come to you. Because you have Ronnie Silk right behind you, and Brian Roby continues to be impressive. Matt Hirschman rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, Jake Johnson's a driver that, although he's young, he's got experience in a lot of different types of race cars, a lot of full-bodied competition. He's relatively new to modified racing, but he's taken to it really, really well. And his maturity, I think, has really helped him with this particular team. He's been able to jump in here. He knows he's racing against some of the best modified drivers in the country, but that hasn't fazed him at all. He's gone out there, he's been aggressive, he's taken what's been given to him out on the racetrack, and at times he's taken a little bit more, but he hasn't been afraid to do that, and that's why he's running second and why he's had some good runs here this year.
I noticed that at Lee during our Derby race back in May, where he did set fast time, went out and led some laps, and that was a major confidence booster for a driver who, you think that you're on top of the world, you're winning races, you're having great finishes, but to go out during a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour event and lead the laps that he did on the old surface that he did, certainly had propelled his season even further. Looks like we have a couple of drivers who will be making some pit stops here before too long.
Yeah, pit road will be open. They'll make their way off the racetrack in turn 3 and back around behind that section of the racetrack where the paddock area is. It's outside pitting for the teams. Those are the cars that are lining up to the outside lane. Now, I want to point out the 16 car of Ronnie Silk, who currently runs in the 3rd position out on the racetrack. Ronnie Silk and that team got in a crash at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The entire car had to be rebuilt. Nerf bars on the side, the front steering rack, the suspension. A lot of work had to be done. They were able to gain 3 positions on the racetrack and able to maintain his championship lead. But it wasn't the positions that really helped him out. This is a new team, remember. It was a team that came together in the offseason when Phil Moran stepped over from Doug Coby's team, put a new driver combination together. You've got new ownership coming into the Whelen Modified Tour, their first full-time season. But that team last week, I think, showed a championship resolve that really gave them the confidence to work as a team that they didn't have before that, because they went through the fire and came out on the other side, gained a couple of spots, maintained the championship lead, took a bad situation and made it into a good situation. And I think when you look back on the season, if Ronnie Silk goes on to win the championship, what they did a couple of weeks ago at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, I think is going to be a pivotal moment for that 16 team and how they propel through the second half of this 2022 campaign.
That is an excellent point, Joe. It isn't necessarily when you're running up front and winning races and clicking off great finishes. It's what you can do when when everything's stacked against you, and you take an unfortunate situation like that. They are able to turn it around and have a solid run right next to a guy with a yellow rookie stripe right next to him, or on his back bumper, Brian Roby, in only, I believe, his 2nd Tour start.
Field is doubled up, getting ready to go back under the green flag here at the Clash at Claremont. Remember, there's a championship on the line, the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup, going to be awarded to the driver who has tallied the most points among 3 races here in New Hampshire. Lee, Monadnock, and this one here tonight at Claremont. We're back underway.
Yeah, John McKennedy gets a great jump. And it looked like Jake Johnson might try the crossover. Thought twice about it. Tucks back in behind McKennedy. The 79 and the 3 with Ronnie Silk in third off of turn number 4.
We saw how Justin Bonsignor struggled up there on the outside lane. Jake Johnson wisely getting back in line to the bottom quickly so he doesn't go back on the outside. So here they come back down into turn number 3. John McKennedy, Jake Johnson, Ronnie Silk to top 3. Roby and Hirschman right there in the top 5.
And Hirschman, you've seen him pass on the outside and the inside. He can put that 60 wherever he wants. We're just shy of halfway, so it's turning in to a race where Matt Hirschman has plenty of time to do Matt Hirschman things. He runs inside the top 5 off of turn 4.
Right now, the championship battle would favor Matt Hirschman and Roy Hall and that entire team, but Doug Kobe lurking there with the Tommy Baldwin Racing 7 New York. There he is at the center of your screen, headed down into turn number 3. He's running 9th, but hasn't been able to progress much further inside the top 10.
It's interesting. This field is so tight tonight, and starting 17th for a 6-time champion, if there was someone who was up to the task, it was going to be Doug Kobe. But in the first 25 laps, he had only passed 2 or 3 cars, had the spurt within the last couple of laps, but as you mentioned, Joe, has kind of stalled out there in 9th, right behind Eric Goodale.
Across the line that time was a halfway point, 75 laps in, so John McKennedy picks up the Jostein's halfway bonus here tonight. That battle for second starts to intensify a little bit. Look how high Ronnie Silk got off turn number 2.
And Jake Johnson went just as high. I'm not sure if he was looking in the mirror that time or they both just went for the same piece of real estate. The 3 and the 16. Let's see what happens when they go into the corner again.
Turn number 2 is a key spot on this racetrack because that's where you got to carry the momentum to pass somebody down into turn number 3. It's hard to do it in turn 1, but that momentum off turn 2 and the bottom shot move into turn number 3 is what a lot of the drivers were talking about beforehand as being a key to success as the night goes on.
It's a very odd-shaped oval, and yes, the key to setting up someone for a pass, maybe even in a lap or 2, will be off of turn number 2. So we'll see how they ride up the racetrack, try to get as much, get in the throttle as early as possible going down the back straightaway.
McKennedy pacing the way. He's comfortable out in front. Meanwhile, we got a car in the grass off turn number 2, the inside, and another car involved. It's Craig Lutz colliding. After the fact was Dave Zappienza in the 36, this off turn 4. We had 2 incidents. The first was in the grass off turn 2. Walt Sutcliffe had spun. And then while that was happening, they came off turn number 4, and the 82 of Craig Lutz went for a ride, and Dave Zappienza collided into him as he was spinning. Caution flag is out, lap 81, the second of the night.
And a couple of things happened right before that caution flag. You had Justin Bonsignor, and his struggles have been well documented tonight. Qualified on the outside of the front row, had slipped back to as far as 12th. He's up to 9th unofficially. Doug Kobe, who had charged to that position, now outside the top 10 looking in. And again, a driver challenging for that Granite State Cup. Having a hard run of it tonight, outside the top 10. Still plenty of time, but certainly not his night.
Let's get a look at what happened this time as they came off turn number 4. Watch the 82 come spinning into frame, and then the outside lane, Dave Zappienza was trying to sneak by, but the 82 of Craig Lutz just drifted up the racetrack and caught him and made it a 2-car incident.
Good heads-up driving by the 34 of J.B. Fortin down to the inside to get on the brakes quickly and avoid catastrophe on there. You can see John McKennedy. You have Lutz, who looks like he's going to make a pit stop, and then Jake Johnson also in the camera, riding in second spot where he has been for about 70% of this race.
The 82 of Craig Lutz working with the new crew chief now for the 3rd race. Scott Tucci, who's been a long-time crew member with the 82 and the Horton Avenue Materials team, so he's got the opportunity to step up into that crew chief role as he is given the permission to be able to bypass the pace car and will make his way into turn number 3 and back up the hill to where his team will service the damage on that number 82 car.
It's been quite it's not even close to being over as far as summer goes, but as far as JDV Productions this year and putting on the 4 events that they put on, each one has told a much different story. You know, you started off with the Derby at Lee and the Granite State Derby back in May. You saw Jennerstown salutes on Memorial Day weekend, and an emotional win for the 7 team that day. It wasn't Doug Kobe in the seat, though. And then we had the duel with the dog with that controversial finish involving Matt Hirschman, Justin Bonsignor, and J.B. Fortin. And then in this race, which the final chapter is still to be written, we're about halfway through the book, and it could be John McKennedy, who's been a lurker for a decent chunk of the season. He's had some good luck, hasn't been able to break through yet in this mini-series of modified races, but tonight could be his night.
What's been great about the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup bonus program here this year is that you've added a lot of drivers new to the series that typically don't run with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. I think of drivers like Brian Roby, drivers like Todd Patnode, who's with us here tonight, Matt Kimball, drivers along those lines, even Matt Hirschman, who run for the extra bonus program. The program gave out $15,000 in posted bonuses. The champion tonight will be awarded $5,000 for their work, and it only has to take place among 3 races. And there's Brian Roby in the 25 machine, one of the drivers that added his name into the mix. It's been great having him on board with the tour. Matt Hirschman directly ahead. And this mini-series has had a lot of summer excitement here in the Granite State, which has become really the bedrock of Whelen Modified Tour racing here this season. Is a lot of the races are being held here in this state, and we've had the opportunity to go to venues like this that we haven't been to, and as we said, 15 years, but racetracks like this are just so much fun. The venue itself, the seating built into the hillside has a very homey feel, but at the same point in time, a very picturesque feel for a racetrack, and this is a great facility here for the Clash at Claremont.
And Norm Wren, his crew, Mike Parks, do a great job of maintaining this facility. It looks like we're ready to go back racing, Joe.
Field rolls up off turn number 4. We'll see 87 laps go up on the scoreboard. John McKennedy, the race leader, down on the bottom, will jump back out in front. But look at the attack this time. Ronnie Silk sees daylight underneath Jake Johnson, and he'll take advantage of it in turn 3.
Veteran Ronnie Silk is ready to move. Down to the inside, draws it up even against Old Blue. They nearly bump tires as they enter turn number 1. Give the advantage to Silk by a bumper. Johnson tries to hang, though, in turn number 2.
Ronnie Silk makes that 16 as wide as he can. He'll go to the runner-up spot. Now Jake Johnson to 3rd. You go a bit further back, charging the outside lane. Here comes Tommy Catalano. He's side-by-side with Brian Roby in turn 1.
Roby losing a couple of spots on the inside. You have the number 60 of Matt Hirschman moving up. Catalano right there. Bonsignor on the tire tracks. Matter of fact, both of them 51 right behind the 22 as they work their way off of 4. Things really starting to turn up as they go into turn 1.
This is the battle for the 5th spot. Brian Roby in the 25 on the bottom. 54 outside, that's Tommy Catalano, neck and neck back down into turn 3.
Brian Roby on the comeback trail, rides the inside, the gray number 25. Now it looks like Kyle Bonsignor might have a faster, no, he's going to look 3 wide, thinks twice about it, tucks back in behind the 25, and they go after it at turn number 1.
Still wheel to wheel. How patient will Roby be on the bottom? You see how tight the 54 of Tommy Catalano was coming back onto the main straightaway. They're still going at it off turn number 2, and look at that gap. Neither driver bumping into each other, clean, side-by-side, short track racing at its best.
Racing with respect. I love the tightness on that 54. He's getting a bite. Now they make a little contact off of the corner, and Matt Hirschman now opens up an advantage. 2 car lengths back into turn number 3.
I guess I spoke too soon about that respect deal, but that's what you got to do on a short track like this. You got to be elbows up. That's how you got to get a guy off your heels and ride him up just a little bit, drive deep, and then stab the gas and cut underneath him and get by him. But Roby just can't complete the pass because Catalano in a dogfight upstairs.
Justin Bonsignor might be, Kyle Bonsignor might be the fastest of the 3. Then you throw Justin into the mix too, as it looks like he wants to go 3 wide, but being the veteran he is, knows that's probably not a good idea at Claremont. And now I thought he was going to actually go behind the 54, but now they're hanging him out a little bit as Brian Roby hangs tough. Looks like some slower cars are ahead and a caution flag.
Caution flag is out for the 3rd time here tonight. And we've got a car around in the middle of turns 3 and 4. And it looks to be the 06 of Sammy Ramu. And Ramu's going to turn it right back to the pit area in the wrong direction up pit lane. And he's got damage there on the left rear quarter, as he'll head back to the pits and see if he can get that car repaired.
Yeah, he needs a right rear, that's for sure. Went flat on there. Not sure what happened. Maybe we'll get a look at what happened on car number 06. Ramo, a driver who has, as Joe said earlier, the most amount of experience out of anybody, and he's not even 21. 19, 20 years old, and has been racing here since he was 13. Very successful at this facility in a number of other disciplines. Coming off, well, not coming off a fourth-place run, but a strong fourth-place run about 6 weeks ago at the Duel at the Dog, another JDV production event. And hoping for a great finish here tonight. Was solid in practice, but things went a little south here to bring out the most recent caution flag, and it looks like some more takers for pit road here very soon.
Yeah, they'll work around the outside. A lot of cars going back to the pits. Craig Lutz, Anthony Nocella among them, as all those cars go back and get some more service back in the Whelen Modified Tour pit area.
Nocella is someone we haven't talked about a lot tonight, but coming off that, would you call it a career race for him at New Hampshire Motor Speedway? I know it was a career moment, and seeing that young family, it was one of the coolest photos I'd seen all year. And obviously came off of turn 4 running, what was he, 3rd or 4th, and ended up winning the race within a matter of 800 feet.
Yeah, an amazing finish. Cat-like reflexes as he saw the wreck happening before it did, went to the bottom and got the win at Anthony Nocella. I thought tonight, and there's still a good chance, that we could see a first-time winner here tonight. And Jake Johnson in 3rd. Does he have anything left? You've got Brian Roby, who's now slid back to 7th after the exchange with Tommy Catalano when they get him lined back up once again. There's a couple of drivers up there still looking for that first win who have been competitive in the top 5 all night. Tommy Catalano, who's now up there inside the top 5.
If I'm playing easy pick, I'm still looking at car number 60. It just seems to be a Matt Hirschman, a different version of a Matt Hirschman type race where he has been aggressive when he's needed to. He's been inside the top 5, so it's not like he's burned through a bunch of cars at once. Currently running in 4th. Still plenty of time, 50 laps for him to get to the front, and I don't think we've seen the strongest run yet out of car number 60. Wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him to break into victory lane. I know it wouldn't be his first, but certainly a popular one for the Hirschman family, whose name steeped with his dad Tony, having a number of different great runs over the years here at Claremont back in the day when the Modified Tour hit here.
And a multiple Whelen Modified Tour championships to his credit. Those Whelen Engineering lights have gone off atop the pace car. We'll see 48 laps to go when the field gets the green flag this time through. The race leader is going to be John McKennedy on the inside lane. Ronnie Silk upstairs, still looking for that first victory here with his new team, and that number 16 machine is a championship point leader. They dive off into turn number 3. We get ready to turn them loose one more time here in the clash at Claremont for the Whelen Modified Tour.
Green flag is out, and Ron Silk on the outside for the first time. Does not even challenge going into turn number 1. Thought he was going to tuck back in behind, and that's exactly what he does. Goes into turn number 3, and they're side by side for 3rd.
Jake Johnson now looks to the right elbow. He's got Matt Hirschman there, who's been picking up spots. Every restart, he gets one, he gets another one, and he stays right in the mix. But Johnson's been loving the bottom. They're wheel to wheel down the back straightaway into turn 3.
Jake Johnson puts the bumper up in front in the battle for 3rd momentarily, but Hirschman gets a great bite off of turn number 4, screams it back into turn number 1, and they both crowd up on Ron Silk.
Off the turn they come. Johnson up on the wheel. This kid is good. And Old Blue, like days of old in this machine. Back across the line they come this time by, and Johnson just slightly out in front in the battle for 3rd.
One of the more storied race cars in Whelen Modified Tour history. As you mentioned, getting a breath of fresh air, new life with a young driver, and up by about a quarter of a car length for that battle as they go into the corner. Further on back, though, Kyle Bonsignor battling with Brian Roby as well as we go back to the Jake Johnson battle.
This is a battle for the 4th position, 3rd and 4th. Jake Johnson and Matt Hirschman. Behind them, we just took a quick look at the battle that calmed down now. That was Tommy Catalano, who runs in 5th. Here is Johnson off turn number 2, able to clear Matt Hirschman, and they're back single file in 3.
Jake Johnson continues to impress. Every time I've seen him behind the wheel, it's definitely been a different experience with relatively the same result. In that particular incident, I figured that Hirschman might get him after 2 or 3 laps after being crowded on the inside. But Jake Johnson, no quit in car number 3, muscled his way back to spot number 3 and chases down Ron Silk off of turn 2, but he has a little bit of ground to make up.
This is where you're going to see the difference between experience and a driver who hasn't really done this before at this level, to see can he keep that car up front. Trouble for the 92. Anthony Nocella is off the pace, and the caution flag is back out once again.
And these relatively short runs have, one driver we haven't talked about much is the leader, John McKennedy, because he's just been up front pretty much the entire time, and he hasn't had a major challenge He's been great on restarts. And in your experience, Joe, when you're setting the pace like John has, it's not like he's pushing too hard. It seems to be pretty advantageous to be able to set the pace that he has for when he's eventually seriously challenged by a Ronnie Silk or a Jake Johnson to have a little bit left in the tank.
Anything can happen in a race like this, but John McKennedy in that 79 machine, he knows how to conserve his equipment. And, you know, he may have a 4 or 5 car length advantage, but he's probably not going 100%. Remember, he's not back there trying to fight off somebody behind him. He's not trying to go get the car in front of him. He can pick the line he wants. Lap traffic has not played a big factor here tonight. He's had plenty of room to race out in the track. He can arc that turn 1 in, cut it right there where he is right now to turn number 2, and he can put that car anywhere he wants. And we hearken back to that decision that they made after practice. They came out of practice and said, you know what, this race car is not good enough. You and I walked up to his trailer and said, hey, where's the driver? He was underneath the race car with a 90-degree angle and some wrenches trying to get the rear end and the suspension set up for that car. He says, I don't have enough drive off the corner. When I get to the gas, they're driving away from me.
And who's he trying to beat tonight?
Just about everybody else in the field, and he's got it. The guy right behind him, though.
But, yeah, he looked at it. He said, you know what, we can't beat Ronnie Silk with this setup. We have to beat Ronnie Silk. That's the guy that we're going after, and ironically, he's the driver that he's battling right now. But great move on John McKennedy, whose racing career dates back a number of years. But, you know, we talk about the modifieds having a New Hampshire home now. He started at the now defunct Sugar Hill Speedway back in the 90s racing go-karts with that same number 79, and that family team have, you know, they've been racing for a very long time, and no matter what discipline he's been after or at, whether it's karting, super modifieds, or modifieds here, he's just an incredible race car driver.
He's had a quiet season. I mean, he's second in the championship standings. He hasn't been stellar, you know, but he's been able to make the best out of those bad days, and he's been just knocking on the door day in and day out, quietly in the mix. But I think you hit on it a little bit. His experience in driving a lot of different style of race cars. He drives high-powered, super-modified race cars where you have got to be up on the wheel. Those cars are the ultimate short-track machine. Very experienced in open-wheel modified competition, especially as we described earlier, races like this where you can't change tires. It suits John McKennedy well. And tonight, so far, you know, they've hit on everything. We're still 35 laps away from the finish. Anything can happen in short track racing, and it usually does. And I'd say that John McKennedy usually doesn't have the best of luck, especially when he's had such a good run like he has today. Eric Goodale back in the pits. He'll get that number 58 back out into the racetrack. There's another interesting story. Here's a guy that's third in the championship standings, and he said earlier tonight, he said, my car's pretty sporty. Well, right now, he's had a lot of problems with it.
What sport?
Yeah.
It's not exactly the sport of, you know, I mean, he's been fast tonight. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's been upside the top 5, but continuing to have some problems, and hopefully he can get that corrected here in the final 35 laps of this event.
He started in 6th, and right now as they come back around after leaving pit road, he'll restart 17th when they go back under the green flag. Whelen Engineering, lights are out, 1 to go signal.
And it's been great to have the folks from Whelen here tonight. Over 300 employees with you know, with a base in Connecticut and a base here in New Hampshire. Great to see some people here tonight from that company supporting and looking at the lights that they created.
About set to get back underway here in Claremont. 33 laps to go for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Green flag is out, and John McKennedy retakes the top spot.
He has been king of the restart tonight. Peels off of turn number 2, leads the pack by about 3 car lengths. Make that 2 as Ronnie Silk gives chase off of 4.
Top 2 single file. Matt Hirschman working the outside lane. He's battling once again with the 3 car of Jake Johnson behind them. Inside lane is Tommy Catalano and Kyle Bonsignor up top.
Jake Johnson once again continues to fight off challenges from the inside. This time, Matt Hirschman draws it up nearly even down the back straightaway, but Kyle Bonsignor coming into the picture in car number 22, right in front of Catalano. It's a hornet's nest back into turn number 1.
Now look who's starting to come back to life. The 51 of Justin Bonsignor. We saw him backpedal earlier in the first half of this race. Now he's starting to go after it. We're getting down to 30 laps to go. If you've got anything left, you've got to use it now.
Yeah, good point. 51 moving up. One driver who struggled here tonight is Doug Kobe. Started in position number 17. He's running about as high as he has for the entire race, and he hasn't been able to get above 9. So an uncharacteristic night for the Tommy Baldwin number 7. Currently running inside the top 10. Not his best performance, but still, You never know what's going to happen inside the final 25 laps. What attrition will come? Will he capitalize? Has he been sitting on his equipment? Can he make a couple of late race moves? We're going to find out here in the next few minutes.
This is a pivotal battle here. Can Matt Hirschman clear Jake Johnson? If he can, we'll find out if Hirschman's got anything for the top two to see if he can go after the win tonight.
John McKennedy has run fairly unchallenged, and I think part of that has to do with the fact he's been so quick on restarts. He hasn't even had to fight Ronnie Silk for 2 or 3 laps. He's been able to get out in front, hasn't had to run anybody side by side, and to your point earlier, can pretty much choose which line he wants to run. And just by doing that, that's going to save you tires. That's going to put you in conservation mode, or as conservative as you can be when leading a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race.
Done a nice job all night long.
How about the 3, Jake Johnson? Just when you think he is done, puts that number 3 back up in front by a half. Carling continuing to battle with Matt Hirschman. Back into turn number 1. Give Johnson the whole shot off of 2.
Can he clear him? Yes. Off turn number 2. Jake Johnson back to 3rd. Hirschman 4th. Kyle Bonsignor and Justin Bonsignor directly behind it. Justin's continuing to close in, but time is starting to run out. Less than 22 laps to go to see whether or not Jake Johnson and Matt Hirschman and the rest of the gang in your frame can track down the top 2, John McKennedy and Ron Silk.
John McKennedy, as you mentioned, has had a very stealth-type season. Hasn't been able to close just yet and has had some misfortune hit his way, too. So far tonight, that has not played into that, so maybe he's shaking it off and having a great night in that number 79.
There's your second place machine, Ron Silk. Lap car, Melissa Fifield up ahead. John McKennedy will get through there. As McKennedy has a healthy advantage back to that 3rd place battle we continue to watch. You see the gap there between the 79 of McKennedy and Ronnie Silk, and that is the largest lead McKennedy has had all night.
And McKennedy, I saw him dig off of turn number 2, nearly put his left side tires in the dirt. So it's not like he's out there on cruise control. He's out there running nearly some of the fastest laps that he has competed in all night. Now he's coming up on some more lap traffic. Ronnie Silk follows in his tire tracks, sees that line is working for him, and tries to close in that much more from there, but still about now a quarter of a straightaway between the top 2 drivers.
Ken Hagee will be the next car that John McKennedy has to work through here on the back straightaway. And then he's got clear racetrack for about half a track. Hagee runs the bottom lane. He takes the line away from John McKennedy, but Ronnie Silk not really able to do anything with it. McKennedy gets away cleanly.
A little bit out of your picture is 6th place runner Justin Bonsignor in car number 51. Outside pole sitter, there he is now, right behind Kyle, and started on the on the outside of the front row, drifted back to 12th, has flirted with 7th, 8th, or 9th for the majority of this race, but now finds himself in 6th and knocking on the door of a top 5. A comeback run for car 51.
There you see the 70 York. Doug Coby had to finish in front of Matt Hirschman tonight to win the Granite State Short Track Cup and that $5,000 bonus in the mini-series throughout the state of New Hampshire, the 70 York of Coby, but he's running back in the 9th position. Meanwhile, Matt Hirschman is up to 4th and right now in position to be able to win the title. Ronnie Silk came in only 3 points behind in the 3rd spot, and he's only a couple of positions ahead of Matt Hirschman. So the battle is pretty tight at the front, but Tommy Baldwin and that 70 York driven by Doug Coby started deep and was really never able to recover from that 17th place qualifying effort.
They call him Big Money Matt. He could easily pick up $5,000 extra here in just the next 12 laps, but he's certainly not out of the woods yet as the leaders work around some more lap traffic. Down the front straightaway, we're watching Brian Roby, who's turned in an incredible performance tonight. He has run the entire 139 laps inside the top 10. Car number 25 in only his 2nd tour start. A normal or a regular runner here at the Claremont Motorsport Park, using all of his racing knowledge and all the different tools that he's gathered over the years to have success here with the big tour racing. Running solidly all night, running inside the top 8.
Roby's done a really nice job tonight. I'm sure he wanted a little bit more than an 8th place finish. He had a scent to the front early on, but still a great night for Brian Roby and that team as they continue to establish themselves in Whelen Modified Tour competition directly ahead of Doug Coby.
And I think he'll take what he's learned tonight, maybe, and only he knows and his race team knows, if he went a little too hard early on and said when they look back at this race, okay, maybe we don't need to go so hard in the first 35 laps, and if the car is starting to go away on them, they'll come back even stronger next time. As the laps wind down, just 7 to go, and back up in front, it continues to be the 79 and the 16 of Ronnie Silk.
Third place battle. Jake Johnson in the 3, still trying to hold off Matt Hirschman right behind. And Hirschman giving it everything he's got to pick up that one extra position and seal the deal on the championship here tonight. 5 laps remain in the Clash at Claremont, 150.
Yeah, lap traffic dead ahead. What does Hirschman do, knowing the weight of this battle? Turn number 3, about 2 car lengths off the back bumper of Old Blue, and Johnson still holds him off at the start-finish line.
Couple of car lengths in hand. Great run tonight for Jake Johnson. And a great week of racing competition for him. He's had an excellent, excellent week to end the month of July. And Jake Johnson holding off Matt Hirschman. Just 3 laps to go. Everybody is chasing John McKennedy.
If a couple of years ago you're Jake Johnson, you're hanging out in your bedroom, you're hanging out with your friends, and you think, okay, what does the summer of 2022 look like to me? I don't know if he would have painted that picture, but it's certainly working for him.
One car has spun off turn number 2. The race leader is back into turn number 3. He'll see 1 lap to go, this time by. White flag is out for John McKennedy.
It was J.B. Fortin in car number 34 that went for the spin, but does not draw the caution flag. Final time into turn number 3 for your leader.
John McKennedy guides his car down to turn 3 and 4. His second career Whelen Modified Tour victory, and John McKennedy wins the Clash at Claremont.
Ronnie Silk comes across second. Jake Johnson will finish on the podium, running inside the top 5 all night. He'll come up third. Great run for Matt Hirschman coming up in 4th, and we await the tally on the championship. It was very, very close between the top 3.
So John McKennedy has won here tonight. First win of the season, second of the career, and he did exactly what he tried to do. He said, I got to beat Ron Silk if I'm going to win the championship here in 2022. He made the adjustment himself, and he did exactly what he aimed to do here tonight at the Clash at Claremont. John McKennedy gets the win. Ronnie Silk across the line in second. Great job for Jake Johnson tonight to finish third. Matt Hirschman was 4th, and Kyle Bonsignor rounding out your top 5 here tonight. Good run for Kyle Bonsignor coming into a racetrack that he didn't have any experience on here this evening. John McKennedy down across the start-finish line, victorious tonight. Whelen Engineering in the house. The Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup lived up to the billing. John McKennedy, the 79, down on the start-finish line, about set to climb out of that race car and celebrate his victory tonight. And we wait for the official word to see whether or not Matt Hirschman did tally enough points from the NASCAR officials to be able to earn the title today in the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup, as the 2 drivers still sit parked on the back straightaway, Matt Hirschman and Ronnie Silk, to determine who will be announced the champion here in the 2022 inaugural running of the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup here this evening. There's the 2 titleists. While they do the math, victory lane being set up here along the front straightaway for John McKennedy and his team. What an outstanding run. Experience and the veteran paying off here tonight. McKennedy able to get the job done and just flawless execution after starting in the 4th spot.
And think how tense it is for the drivers on the backstretch, too. One of them will be $5,000 richer. The other one will just drive off to the pits after a mini series, if you will, with inside the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Both Ronnie Silk and Matt Hirschman. Great mini season for those drivers here in New Hampshire.
John McKennedy about set to climb out of the race car. Excellent job for him and his team. Able to get that victory. Here he comes out of the race car. Let's go down to victory lane and Jesse Punch.
John McKennedy, his second win of his career, back in victory lane with the Whelen Mods for the first time since 2018. Describe how special this moment is.
Yeah, just way overdue. The last few years I had a good deal with Tommy Baldwin and the 7NY group. been a few years since we won. We had so many seconds with Tommy poles. I think we had, I don't know, 8 or 9 seconds. We were always in contention. Just couldn't get that W the last few years. But we're back here. We won tonight. It's awesome. I got a great group of guys. Everyone worked really hard today. The last few months, really, switching cars back and forth. It's a team effort. So big thanks to them and my car owners, Tim, Charlotte, Lapine, just the whole package.
John, I was standing by your team throughout that race, and they were confident, but you could tell how bad they wanted this. You said you have a great team behind you. How much does this mean to this entire operation?
Oh, it's big. You know, it's gives us some momentum going into the last handful of races. You know, we're in a point hunt here. We're only a few points out of the lead, so this was really big. We're heading to Thompson, which is a really great track for me. I feel really good, and we'll be going to Thompson with a brand new car, so that'll hopefully even give us a little extra.
Well, congratulations on the win, John. Go celebrate it with your team.
Oh, yeah, and thanks for everyone for coming out, and see you guys at Thompson in a few weeks.
Give it up for John McKinney, your Clash at Claremont champion.
So John McKennedy, champion of the Clash at Claremont here tonight. As he alluded to, the next stop of the Whelen Modified Tour is a Wednesday night, August 17th, so a couple of weeks off for the teams down at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park in Thompson, Connecticut, as that race will continue on. McKennedy, who nearly won one of those races. How about this on the back straightaway? Helmets off for Matt Hirschman and Ronnie Silk as they both talk through their runs tonight.
It reminds me of the Looney Tunes cartoon with the sheepdog and what was the other one? They used to, the old Looney Tunes cartoon where they would just sit there and they would, I don't know, the coyote, that's what it was. I don't know if you remember that one. But they would just, be friends and everything off of when they were battling, because when they were battling, if you know the cartoon, if you get the reference, the three of you that do, you get what I mean. But off the track or after battle, they just, I don't know, just have a nice little conversation about it.
And these are probably two of the most low-key drivers on the tour. Matt Hirschman generally keeps to himself. He's had his, stints with controversy, as has Ronnie Silk, but they kind of keep to themselves. Ronnie Silk, the same thing. He'd rather just show up and grab the wheel and drive. And these two guys just enjoying this moment here as we wait for the officials to go ahead and give the final word as to who the champion will be after they tally all the total. It was tight at the top, so they're just going through and verifying to make sure they have it right. They came in tied. Matt Hirschman and Doug Kobe were tied. A couple of points behind was Ronnie Silk in that team. Ronnie Silk tonight finished second. Matt Hirschman tonight finished fourth, and that's why they're going through and tallying so we get the official word on the championship here for the Granite State Cup. Of course, all part of the Whelen Engineering program.
When there are thousands of dollars on the line, you want to dot the I's, you want to cross the T's, and two very well-deserving drivers sitting there on the backstretch just talking about their race. Maybe they're just talking about some different things as well, but certainly you love to see the camaraderie between all of the competitors on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Whether there is controversy, there's always obviously the bond of the racing family, and if there is a little controversy, they move on from it pretty quickly.
We really saw a competitive race here tonight. Very clean side-by-side racing action. This racetrack, it's been 15 years too long since we saw action here at the Claremont Motorsports Park. A very competitive race, clean race all the way around, and they are going to go ahead and continue on. Hey, we just got the word from the NASCAR officials. The champion of the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup is going to be Matt Hirschman, who gets the job done here tonight over the 3-race series. Came home fourth tonight, and they have tallied it all up, and Matt Hirschman will drive it around through turns 3 and 4, where he will go ahead and claim the Granite State Cup, a beautiful trophy that'll be presented by Michelle Mandel from Whelen Engineering, as John McKenney and his team has just finished up all of their victory lane photos. They will move the banner down, and Matt Hirschman, you said it, big money Matt, and by the narrowest margin, 2 points was all the difference between Matt Hirschman over the 16 car of Ronnie Silk.
And I think back to the duel with the dog at Monadnock, and obviously it works out for Hirschman to win the championship, but those few positions that cost him at the end might have played a factor in the championship. It certainly made it tighter and almost made it enough for Ronnie Silk to take that championship away. And obviously we don't have to tell that story tonight. Hirschman was able to overcome. You can see him inside the cockpit, and we'll be down to meet him in just a moment. Josh Veneta, the founder and president of JDV Productions, a very busy man here tonight, congratulating John McKennedy on his win in the Clash at Claremont. But the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup going to Matt Hirschman. He's out of the race car.
Let's go trackside.
Matt Hirschman, the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup champion and the winner of that $5,000 bonus. What does it mean for you to bring this honor home to this team?
Well, it's just I'm glad they tied them all together. JVD Productions and Josh Veneta. I probably wouldn't have gone to all 3 races had it not been tied together with a bonus here that we were eligible for. So appreciate that. As a promoter, I remember going to Beach Ridge last year, and I was just walking the tracks. I'd never been there, and he yelled from across the way and thanked me for coming. And that stuff like that is appreciated. And I talked to my car owner about it and said, I think we should support this. So yeah, he was on board with it. So thank PD Motorsports and the whole team. We had good, consistent runs. There was a should have had win in there, but we'll take the cup for this year, and we'll see what happens for next year. We might try it again.
Well, that's an added $5,000 bonus to car owner Roy Hall. What does that kind of money do for a team like this?
Well, it's a nice bonus because it's basically based on 3 races. So for 3 races, I don't think I've ever won a 3-race series that paid that much for the champion before. I've done a lot of mini-series stuff over the years, and I don't think we've ever gotten that much for 3 races. So it's appreciated. The guys that we were contending with, they're in for the big prize of the whole season. So hopefully they have a good race right down to the end, and we'll join them a couple more times probably. But like I said, we already did more than we normally do, but that was because of the JDV Cup, and proud to say we won it, and we're the inaugural winner. Hopefully it's back again for the future.
Well, Matt, congratulations on a strong 3 runs and earning that title.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So there you have it, Matt Hirschman. His family on board with him here tonight as he is the inaugural winner of the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup. The celebration will take place here momentarily. They'll go ahead and uncork the champagne, celebrate down on the front straightaway, our victory lane here tonight. And Matt Hirschman, something that he has been a part of many times this season, is celebrating. Confetti in the air, champagne everywhere, and Matt Hirschman's incredible season continues on. Now the inaugural champion of the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup here this evening.
It's funny, he mentioned that he had the should have win. That was a reference to Monadnock Speedway and finishing a few positions back after that controversial finish. But yeah, all's well that ends well for car number 60. He's the inaugural champion in the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup this year.
Here to welcome the trophy presenter for tonight's Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup, Michelle Mandel will present the trophy to Matt Hirschman.
Joe, one of the cool things about this entire Granite State Short Track Cup, whether it was the Derby, whether it was Jennerstown Salutes, which it wasn't here in Granite State, or the Duel with the Dog here at the Clash at Claremont, different trophies specific to the event. And the fine details that went into every single event that JDV Productions put on this year. It was promotions on a different level. I mean, from the way that competitors were welcomed into the facility they were competing at on that particular weekend to down to the trophies, the organization was just simply outstanding, and I think that's why you see so many smiles, whether it's Victory Lane or throughout the paddock area as well. Again, John McKennedy with a big win tonight. Ronnie Silk comes up just 1 position short and a couple of points short in the Short Track Cup as well. So he's Mr. Second Place tonight. Jake Johnson had that amazing 3rd place run, ran in the top 5 all night. Your inaugural champion, Matt Hirschman, in 4th, and Kyle Bonsignor running a solid 5th place here tonight in car number 22.
Yeah, and you also have to look at just the run that was put in here tonight by many of the teams and drivers that are just so strong. Great action here all night long. Let's go now trackside to JDV Productions founder and president Josh Veneta.
Matt, on behalf of all of us at JDV Productions, we want to congratulate you as the inaugural Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup champion. You and your team were a huge part of what we did. Your consistency and just your determination to save your equipment obviously paid off here for you in the end. We couldn't be prouder to have you as our champion. Congratulations to you and the rest of the PD Motorsports team.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Here you go, guys.
Matt Hirschman and his team victorious here tonight. Race fans, been an outstanding night here at Claremont Motorsports Park. The racing lived up to the billing, 150 laps of elbows up, wheels up action, and it was certainly an entertaining night for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Picturesque scenes here in New Hampshire, a packed crowd. The Clash at Claremont, 150 laps, 15 years in the making for the third time that the series came here. It was a great night of action. Conservative was John McKennedy, and that's what it took to get the win here tonight. The Whelen Modified Tour rolls on, but it's John McKennedy victorious tonight at Claremont.
This copyrighted telecast may not be